Okay, everybody, we are live. Everybody, welcome back to our Sansa Jonsa discussion part 3. I have Feuerhexe and LMR with me once again, and we're just going to wrap up this discussion. We're just going to wrap up this discussion on the Jonsa theme. Sansa and Jon, where we feel like their characters are headed, and yeah, just talk about the last little bit we have. Like I said, Feuerhexe's video was 55 minutes long, so it was easy to break it down into 3 parts to discuss, and it's a beautiful video, you guys. If you haven't seen it, you really must watch it. It is like watching a television show. Excuse me for just a second. I'm trying to pull the live stream up on my phone so I can look at the chat. Here we are. It's like watching a television show. Ooh. Okay. So just to recap. Hi, Dana. Just to recap, let's just kind of go over a few points of what we had gone over in part 1 and part 2. Oh, everybody, today we're going to try and use the cameras. Previously, when we were streaming, it's me and LMR here in the U.S. and both Central Time Zone. And it's Brita over there in Germany. And then we had Marie Hill, who was coming to us down under from Australia. She's not able to join us this time because the time difference is so big that she just couldn't make it this time. But she will be sorely missed. And in the video, what we've already talked about is just a lot of foreshadowing. I mean, an amazing amount of foreshadowing from both of them wanting to rebuild Winterfell and thinking about it at separate times, to both of them thinking about the children they would like to have, and both of them imagining it, basically trying to replace the family that they've lost. Sansa imagines having 2 boys like her brothers and a girl, and Jon, her youngest brother specifically, and then Jon imagines having a boy like Robb. In the video, Feuerhexe says that basically Jon and Sansa are like Ned and Catelyn 2.0, except for not just 2.0, like a new and improved version. And I find that to be very true. They parallel each other in so many ways. They both leave Winterfell expecting all these wonderful things and basically having really great expectations. Both of them get let down fairly quickly, are not only bullied and made fun of, but are both in precarious situations. Jon is able to turn to his advantage with some help from Tyrion, as is Sansa. Not immediately, but eventually Tyrion helps her, which I find very interesting, that we see this character, Tyrion, play a significant role in both of them kind of expanding their beliefs and their views to be able to adapt and fit in. And that's what both of them do beautifully. In fact, more beautifully really than any of the other children do. In fact, while there's a lot of people who do not like Sansa and criticize her constantly, she's actually come, I think, further or as far as Jon, and definitely further than any of the other children. And you also go on to say that Jon and Sansa have one of the best relationships. And that's completely true. And they also mirror Catelyn and Ned in so many ways. Would you like to pick up here, Feuerhexe, and mention just some talking points that we went over? The children, the dreams, the rebuilding of Winterfell. one starting out a bastard, the other actually finally garnering some empathy for the brother she wasn't close to by becoming a bastard and being put in that situation to be snubbed for no other reason than her birth. Anyone? Oh, both lose faith in the gods.
I'm not sure if Feuerhexe has sound right now, because I don't hear her answering. So
right, do you have sound, Brita? Do you have sound?
The sound is sometimes a little bumpy. Sometimes I can hear very well, and sometimes it's pretty not so well.
Okay. Did you hear what I was saying about just basically just going over the talking points of all the ways in which Jon and Sansa mirror each other, from their dreams to their thoughts of children, their thoughts on rebuilding Winterfell, their reversal of roles, from him starting out as a bastard to basically become the highest position at Winterfell, to her starting out as the highest position at court for a woman besides Cersei, and then falling so far, not only to a traitor's daughter, but then eventually a bastard.
Yeah, we were talking about basically how the characters of Jon and Sansa and their journeys kind of mirror each other, like you said. Both leaving Winterfell with certain ideas and dreams and hopes, and both of them have their dreams crushed. And Sansa goes from future and Jon from Bastard. At the end, they claim the place that they both didn't want to be a part of at the beginning of the story. Nice and poetic, and now they are kind of the lord and lady of the place that they never wanted to be a part of at the beginning, because they felt they didn't belong at this into this place. So yeah, it's kind of the circle is kind of closing now.
Okay, well,
I hope my sound is okay.
It's a little bit bumpy, but let's try to press forward. I noticed when I muted, it got better. You guys bear with us. We're going to do everything we can to have the best stream. And if that means turning off our videos, which is why we didn't do them to begin with, we found that it was a hindrance to good sound, then that's what we'll do. But Feuerhexe wanted to do the video, which is what a live stream is, and I wanted her to have that, to be able to do that. So we're going to try to do it. And I find that if we keep our microphones muted, and we'll try to push through, but if it gets too bad, we'll turn the cameras off. But yeah, so I thought a good place for us to pick up, and if you guys disagree, stop me. Let's go over the historical reference and implications of this. Elizabeth of York, daughter of a traitor, supposed, two brothers that went missing, named a bastard at one time in her life by her uncle Richard of Gloucester, basically so he could snatch the throne. But yeah, similarities, you know, are there. And also, let me also make this clear. Elizabeth of York actually had the better claim to the throne of England. If you look at lineage and what have you, the line that Henry Tudor came off of, they were supposed to be exempt from inheriting the throne. However, when there were no other people to claim the throne, they kind of put themselves forward the Tudor brothers, Jasper and Edmund. And also, let's look at that. Edmund, Eddard, it sounds a lot alike. But yeah, Edmund Tudor, Margaret Beaufort, had a child. He died, I believe, before the child. No, I believe he was alive when Henry Tudor was born, but he died very shortly thereafter. He was a Lancaster. And his mother had been the queen, married to the king. Okay, but not the queen herself in her own right. She had been married to the king, and she married somebody else without the king's permission, and then had Edmund and Jasper. And they were supposed to be barred from ever trying to claim the throne, but that didn't stop them from doing so. And a lot of people argue that, you know, for conquest, Henry Tudor did have the claim. But by birth, in my opinion, and a lot of other people's opinion, Elizabeth of York had the better claim. Well, we know that's true of Sansa also. As far as blood goes, and with Bran giving up his claim because he's a three-eyed raven, Sansa has the claim to the north, especially with Jon's new parentage coming to light. Of course, you could argue that whoever, like I believe it was Tywin that said, whoever has the men, has the army, is in control. They're the one with the power. But what we see is Elizabeth of York's mother, Elizabeth Woodville, Richard, her brother-in-law, Edward IV's brother, had her marriage claimed illegitimate, which basically, let me put this in perspective. Ramsay Bolton could have done a similar thing. If on down the line he would have decided that he didn't want to be married to Sansa, he could have said that she was already technically still married to Tyrion Lannister. And basically that's what they weren't married, but there was a betrothal contract, he said, floating around out there. Well, this had already been questioned before Edward's death. But he, you know, he was in power at the time, having been left the regent of the boys. And we know that they got put in the Tower. Now, accounts differ, but they vanished. And then he put himself on the throne. And some people would argue that Elizabeth of York had the better claim. However, with Henry Tudor having the army, and having killed Richard III, and then marrying Elizabeth, which is what he promised to do, I believe in Reims Cathedral, he made a solemn oath that if he came over to England and was successful in taking down Richard's army, he would marry Elizabeth of York. And that's exactly what he did. And they had children fairly soon afterwards, which back in those days, people were very superstitious. They viewed that as, well, this must be blessed by God if you're able to have children relatively easily, because infant mortality rate is very high, as well as the mother. And Elizabeth York did end up dying at like age 37 from trying to have another child after her first son, Arthur, had died. So that being said, you guys, what do you have to say about that? And the comparison of Sansa to Elizabeth of York. I think it's very valid, and I hope that I seem like a person who's read a book or two about it, because I have.
It's very interesting. Before, like everybody probably knows who is into any kind of news about George and how he writes, everything is based, and he admits it, that he took inspiration from multiple sources, including Lord of the Rings and what was it, the War of Roses, that we were talking about.
Yes.
And interesting thing about it is that what he was interested in was not taking exactly the linear history and copying it with bits and pieces. He mixed it up. So he took mostly all the elements that were there, and he mixed it up to different lines of storylines of different characters. So this is what is interesting. a lot of the stuff that he writes actually happened, which is disturbing because those things actually happened. The poisoning, the scheming, the murder, all that. But so this is the reality minus the dragons. But he makes it up in a way that it kind of reminds people who are into all that of some things that they read or history that they studied, but it's not the same. So in a way, you can never expect that just because some king somewhere, was victorious, that this is going to be the same thing repeated. So, but for Elizabeth and that story, it is stunning how. I mean, you can look it up in a history book, you can look it up in different videos, but it's still extremely interesting to see how he put it all together and how I would say it's even better than history because he added, and I don't mean the dragons, I mean like the way he put it together.
It is.
Yeah. So
it is because a lot of times when you see these, let's call them adaptations of history, say for instance, The White Queen, which is supposed to be based on the story that's on Stars right now, loosely based on history, just like the Tudors. It was good. It was a good show, but not exactly to history. But there is no history. It's just he's taken bits and pieces of it. And so, yeah, I actually enjoy this more. I don't have anything to criticize. Like, I'm not like, that's not the right sister. It was Mary Tudor who married Brandon. It wasn't Margaret. Yeah, so.
Yeah, and having that unexpected twist, that's what I expect. Go ahead, Britta.
I'm so impressed by your history knowledge, Jen.
Thank you.
It's so complicated. It's so complicated to me. I studied history, but I was never dealing with this subject. But I know that George R. R. Martin got inspired by the War of the Roses, but he got a lot of historical influences, also Scottish history. And also for Henry Tudor, we know vectors show parallels with historical figures, and people are also arguing that Daenerys shows a lot of parallels with Henry Tudor, which is why a lot of people think that she will really end up ruling. But if she's really super, then that means that she's Sansa, which I want to see.
Yeah, that is the unexpected part that I like. Just because somebody in the history, and he's a genius at it. George is a genius, basically. He takes a story of or family history of somebody there, and he changes if it was a king or not a king, but somebody who wanted to be a king, he makes that person to be a queen, and he basically mixes it up. So you never know what to expect next. Just because you know the history doesn't mean that it will follow it like a linear basically book story.
I didn't know. Hey, Bubba Husky, Dana, everybody in the chat, just a quick shout out. Viper Wren, Mackenzie, Jake Cruz, great to see you guys. Thank you so much for the support. I didn't know that there was some people who felt like Daenerys's character mirrored Henry Tudor. Her sense of entitlement and all of that, more honestly, the way she is just kind of immovable in her, I am his, reminds me a bit of Mary Tudor, and just the way she was very immovable, not only about Catholicism, but about Elizabeth being a bastard. And, this one being, they killed my mother, technically he wasn't married to any of these people. if you go by what the Pope says, a tyrant. It turned into a real tyrant. And I think she only ruled, gosh, maybe like 5 years, but her reign was known as Bloody Mary. But I do need to look over that in the chat, everybody. What historical figures have you guys heard, or have you heard Daenerys compared to anyone? Dana, my sound stutters. That might be me. Lord.
The way I hear it here, for some reason, your sound, Jen, to me sounds just fine. But I noticed that Brita's sounds is a little bit choppy. At least this is what I heard.
It's a little bit choppy, but let's press forward and see if we can get it smoothed out.
Yeah. Because
sometimes just the start of a stream is a little bit testy, but then it'll settle down a bit. Okay. Dana, okay. Feuerhexe, okay. Let's see how your sound's going to go. Genghis Khan, being compared to Genghis Khan. Now, I've heard that for Drogo, but not for Dany.
And actually for, as far as you mentioned, Henry Tudor, he is the one, and there are a couple of videos. There's one from, I think, Ted Ed, one of the really good ones, where Dany is compared to Henry Tudor for the fact of, like she, just like he is not known of to in that game, and then he comes in kind of towards the end. He shows up as somebody that they didn't know about, and then he has the strongest thus far, I mean, on the in history, claim to the throne, being, you know, the descendant of the original, I think Lancaster, either Lancaster or York, right? There are only two. I forgot which one. So yeah, he has the one true claim, and then he's the one who combines them. But that in a way would mean that Henry Tudor would be representing Dany, and Elizabeth of York would be representing, I guess, Jon. So again, that's from a different video that I saw.
Right. Okay. Okay. I tell you what, I don't think you can go specifically by this, but I tell you who did burn several people alive, especially if he considered you a heretic and you were preaching against him, was their youngest son, Henry VIII. He burned a few people alive, a woman in particular. It was supposedly a very gruesome thing. There's a historical account of it, for preaching against him. She was Protestant too, and though he wasn't Catholic.
Yeah, I think people who say that Daenerys is like Henry Tudor mainly say this because she was in exile just like him, and he conquered the throne, and she wants the one. They like Tudor, but very strong parallels to like Robespierre and Napoleon. You know, the great conqueror, and the kind of violent terrorism, not terrorism, reign that and tyrant rulership.
I can definitely see that. And I tell you what, we'll see. He was known for being extremely paranoid, and especially after Elizabeth of York died. But I will say this, and this really has nothing to do with Game of Thrones, but talking about a marriage that was completely arranged, was completely political, but grew into love. And And I believe they were also cousins, not like first cousins, but a little bit further down the line. But if you read the account of when they lost their oldest son, Arthur, very unexpectedly and very fast, it is really, really beautiful. I mean, it will bring a tear to your eye. It goes something like Henry VII, Henry Tudor, was so upset and he was breaking down and he was crying. And Elizabeth of York comforted him and said, "We're young, we can have more children." And then she went back over to her chambers and broke down. And then he came over and comforted her. And this is all recorded pretty much word for word. And it is very beautiful. Read that account of their oldest son's death. And I would like to know if you were able to not shed a tear. It is really beautiful and a true testament to how some of these arranged political marriages really did turn into love matches, you know? And not only that, but I imagine being the king or the queen is very lonely in and of itself and not knowing who to trust. And I think she and he ended up being an amazing support for each other, as she was known to be a very sweet and gentle and calm, where he was known to be very nervous and excitable and angry and kind of mean. So they kind of rounded each other out, if you will. And I think definitely you can look at Jon and Sansa and see where they're a little bit opposite, but they mesh nicely to make a whole.
Exactly. And actually, there's a nice comment here with that from Mackenzie Burns. She writes, with these parallels of combining of the white and red rose, would you see a similar change in the sigil for Jonsa? Actually, that's a question for you, Jen, if you want to answer that.
I think so. And that's also something that Feuerhexe goes over in her video. I'll let her explain that.
Yeah, right. Henry Tudor, kind of, you know, with their marriage, they united House Lannister, and if they unite houses and Targaryen, and I think maybe they found a new house sigil that combines their individual sigils, much like Henry Tudor's coat of arms, which is really cool, which showed the dragon and the greyhound. Maybe there's going to be a new house that kind of brings two sigils together.
I would like to see that, actually.
I would too.
Yeah, actually, I was kind of I like making different things, like creating them myself, and I thought I'm gonna see if if they can change a banner for them. And they have different things over there. They have like a dragon for, obviously, for Targaryens, and wolf for Starks. And then I got to think about how, if that actually happened, if they decided to omit Starks and omit Targaryens, if, for example, if they could end up as either Stargaryens or Stargaryens. And then when I wrote I was kind of having fun with it, and I wrote down Stargaryens or Stargaryens, and I'm thinking, star, he was born under a bleeding star, so that kind of made sense to me. And then kind of a sigil that would be really cool, like it's a combination of different animals. How about a wolf breathing fire? But that's, again, complete tinfoil. But who knows what they come up with, if it's actually going to happen. But I would like to see something really cool versus just, like a little, like a new animal. I would like to see a combination of something that they combine the two.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go to the chat for a second. Dana says, so I've heard Danny compared to Hitler only because of how glorified he was and the cult of personality that people fell for before they knew he was insane. The director of, I guess this means season 6, episode 6, specifically. Y'all, hold on a sec.
Stop.
Yeah, it's nice to see the behind the scenes of some of the explanation. And for a lot of things, I guess people like to see at the end of the episode, they have that nice addition that you're able to watch it at the end, kind of them explaining or taking us through what they did or what their idea behind it was. So I don't remember seeing that. I remember the talk after that scene. I just don't remember the word, her being compared to Hitler, but that would make sense. Kind of insanity, bit of that insanity and the power trip, and her kind of being new to it, to actually finally have all that power and being able to present it. So I see that being.
Yeah, I think the Targaryens in general were kind of they are kind of showing parallels to the Nazis because of their obsession of pure bloodlines and also the name Targaryen. It kind of sounds like what's the word in English? Aryan, the Aryan race.
Yes, I see what you're saying.
Do you pronounce it?
Aryan. Yeah, that's how you pronounce
basically
it.
their obsession to keep their blood pure and their race pure. It really kind of very much reminds me of
Plus the white hair, the blonde hair,
like, his version of the Nazis. Especially with the Targaryens, with their obsession of conquering and imperialism and conquering Almanor. Yeah.
Okay, in the chat we have
Targaryens are pretty controversial race. Yeah.
okay. I'm going to see if that doesn't help us a bit with sound. And also there's a little bit of a delay. Sorry, everybody. How is the sound now?
Brita, can you say something? And we're going to try to mute ourselves and turn off our sounds. But can you say something? We'll see if it helped.
Have sound.
Yeah, that does sound better. I see what you're saying there. And then someone in the chat says there's a delay.
Me?
There here in the comments, there's more talk about Julius Caesar, Caligula. So this is a good way of how George does his thing. Can you hear us, Brita?
Not really. Sorry.
Okay.
No, it's really it's a few seconds I can hear you, and then your sound is off again. Yeah.
Okay, Brita, can you
Jenna she's muted.
Okay, let's just see if we can you just for the test, can you mute yourself and turn off the sound, the video, Brita, just so we can, and then actually no, not mute yourself. Can you just turn off the video for a moment, and we're gonna see how it goes, and let's give it maybe a couple seconds to let it catch up to the things. Can you say something, Brita?
Okay, I switched off the video now, and how's the sound?
Perfect. At least so Jen, can you turn on I'm just doing a test here. Jen,
No, that's fine.
Can you turn on your camera? I just want to see what happens.
Okay.
And Brita, can you say something?
Yeah, hello, can you hear me? How is the sound? Yeah, I think
Okay.
I know it's very exhausting to listen to a stream if the sound is really bumpy. I really hate it. I think I will switch off the camera now.
I think I will too, and that's fine with me. I'm in my Dollar Tree clothing. Yes, you guys, I'm a cashier extraordinaire at the Dollar Tree. I must have rang up 1,000 items today. There's a parade in New Orleans, and my store is on the parade route.
I can hear you a lot better now.
I can hear you so much better, and I think we can really get into the meat of this discussion.
Yeah.
So if you guys don't mind, you kind of know what we all look like, but I really want us to have a great final discussion. So that's way more important than anything else. Okay.
Maybe, maybe it's just maybe I'm the problem because you guys are in the USA and I'm so far away from you that I'm causing the problems.
I'm sure it has something to do with being on all three networks and all like that, but no, it's nobody's fault. It's just the way things are. No, you know what? I'll be the problem.
Yeah, I think it's really important to have a good sound because otherwise it's really, really exhausting for everyone.
Yeah, now the sound is better, so we can continue. And maybe at the end we can say bye to everybody and with the sound and video.
Exactly. This is so important for us to get this right, you guys. And we are coming to you from 2 different continents, which is, awesome. And that's what I really love about this community. So everybody sounds great right now. So let's see, where were we? We were talking about historical figures. You were saying that, and then I believe it was Dana in the chat was saying that I believe season 6, episode 6, Daenerys was actually compared to Hitler by director Jack Bender.
Actually, Viper Wren said that, but I'm just quoting. I just looked it up.
My bad.
That's okay.
And Viper Wren also said, now Julius Caesar, I do believe he was a conqueror, but he just didn't. I don't know. I see Caligula more than Julius Caesar. I've read a lot. I've read several biographies on him. And while he did want to be in complete control, I don't know. Maybe I need to read a few more.
But you guys, didn't George R. R. Martin himself compare the Targaryens to kind of like to the Nazis, or is it just because there are some similarities? I think didn't he mention those himself once? I think do we know that? Do you?
I don't remember hearing that, but that doesn't mean that it wasn't said. People tell me in this very chat, some people pointed out some things that I didn't know. And that's another reason we do these chats. I'm not the authority on Game of Thrones. It's not my material. I just love it so much and love to talk about it, just like all of you guys. And I'm so glad you're all here. And I learn something every time we do a chat as well.
It's really fun comparing different people from history, and the fun thing about it is that there's no one answer. It's not just based on one person, because that would be too easy. That would be too boring, I would say. But having George combine different people, and they were taking something that was similar about them and putting them, let's say, in one person, like Danny or John or even Arya, and then Sansa. It's really fun because we can discuss it. We can all have different points from history, and we're kind of in a way all right if and our opinions are valid because they're all of it is based on facts from history, but it's basically combined together in one person, one character in his book.
Which is honestly what I think he did. I think he started with a vision in mind, and obviously he's very well educated and knows his history. I do know this. I do know that he has said many times that Tolkien was not only one of his favorite writers, but an inspiration. And I've heard it said before that Lord of the Rings is a comparison to industrialism and the Nazis. So could very well be. I don't doubt it.
Yeah, Tolkien really got very much inspired by World War II stuff and all. Yeah, and also A Song of Ice and Fire is also it's kind of like on the one side it has this winter is coming message which is kind of a parallel to the climate change in our world, which is really interesting.
That is because that's a big conversation. And if I won't say if I believe it, I believe in that, in climate change. But that's a major thing. That's going to change the world. Is changing the world. I mean, you look at places like Bangladesh that are starting to become underwater, and which also gets us to we're going to be looking at a theory by Marie Hill coming up in the near future that is kind of based on the weather in Westeros, and we'll get into that more deeply. And not to get off subject, Feuerhexe, but how is your next video, Jon's political game, coming?
Believe it or not, today I started to edit the video, and I said it would be shorter. It's probably going to be 53 minutes long.
That's amazing to me because I have one smart TV in my house, and I put your video on the big TV and let it roll just like I'm watching a show. And
Yeah,
nothing gives me more pleasure.
But I'm really frustrated because I said I wanted to make it shorter, but whenever I do something, I really want to do it properly, and just like the Jon Sansa video, I really wanted to do that properly, and I couldn't do that in just 20 minutes, so it got really this long. And this other video that I'm working on now, I want to do that properly as well. So yeah, it's probably going to be a little longer. Again, sorry guys. But
I love your videos, and watching a video from you is like watching a television show. So it's fine with me. Keep them coming.
Yes,
and exactly. They're packed with facts, so it's not like there are any fillers in there. And I know I sound like a broken record, but I really love that video. It is very long, but that's the good part about it, because once you click it, you don't have to wait for commercials. You don't have to, scroll for the next one to load. You put everything in that video, and like Jen said, just hit play, relax, and kind of watch it as a TV show full of facts. Yeah.
Yeah, really the main reason I wanted to do this really was because there wasn't really a video on YouTube yet that did that sort of tied all the major clues together, because there are a few videos, but they mainly only focus on the Ashford theory, and there wasn't any video yet that really put the major clues all together. And that's mainly why I did it, and because I wanted to show that this theory is really very, very it really has got a very, very solid foundation, which is what I wanted to show. So yeah.
There is also kind of now that we're still on topic of Jon and Sansa. Do any of you ladies have you ever seen the Lord of Rings? I mean the movie, because I have not read the books, but I've seen all the movies and then Hobbit and all that. Are you familiar with the movies or books?
Yes.
And you, Jen?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
There is something, and I know like there's controversy about, oh, I mean, I do get it. George, either I heard somebody saying it about him, so I'm kind of quoting somebody who quoted him. I'm not quoting George, but it was said somewhere that when George writes his stuff, he actually looks into what are the realistic things, like let's say where did they get the food and all the struggles that were not present in Lord of the Rings. And not to be critical of Lord of the Rings, because I will still geek out to it. Like yesterday I actually did turn on the first Lord of the Rings, and yeah, I saw all the things that were missing, and why didn't they fly over there and all that stuff. Besides that, I was looking at the artistic representation and the story behind it, not about analyzing what was wrong with it, because that's not the point for me to enjoy something. So for what I saw over there, and actually I wrote it down. I stopped the thing and I wrote it down, and I wanted you to tell me what you think about it. For there is the character, he's known as Strider, or and he's the ranger over there, and I forgot what's his name. He's actually the king, a true king, heir to the throne.
Aragon.
Aragon.
That's Aragon.
Aragon.
Yep. So he's hiding, he's into hiding, and he first of all, he's a ranger, so hint hint hint, Jon is a ranger. I'm not a ranger, but he's, ranger. We think of the Night's Watch and all that stuff. And then he goes by a different name, Strider, like Jon Snow goes by Jon Snow, not his, given name when he was after he was born. And then the elf, is her name is what's her name? Not Ariel, but
Arwen.
Arwen. There we go. So kind of from what I understood, and I didn't go deep into that because I just want to enjoy it. I don't want to dissect it because then I may find too many things wrong with it. So I just enjoy it for what it is. And I thought that they were raised together, or at least kind of grew up near each other, and then they fell in love. Again, this is just from my understanding of it. There may be a whole lore behind it, and I don't know what their story is, but that kind of reminded me again of Jon and Sansa being raised in a way together but separate. And obviously right now they're not in love or anything, but that doesn't mean that it can't happen later. Like marriages for political reasons, they can evolve into something beautiful. So it's not something that's not going to happen. But again, what I wanted to say is there is a saying, and actually that elf, she says, I keep calling her an elf, I don't want to pronounce her name. So there's a quote, and she says, from the ashes the fire shall be woken, the light from the shadow shall spring, the new shall the blade that was broken, the crownless again shall be king. So that when I heard that, I stopped the thing and I was trying to scribble it down. I couldn't find anything, so I wrote it on my phone. That's why I can't read it now, because it's like chicken scratch on my phone. But yeah, so what I thought is like, from the ashes, basically, when things are as bad as they could be after everything is done, like the light from a shadow shall spring. So that got me thinking into what if still Jon has something to contribute to ending whatever is going on. But then again, he cannot do it by himself. The things have to be reforged, and maybe that love for the people or love for whoever he has can bring it about. What are your thoughts about it?
Yeah, and speaking of that, Marie Hill sent me a message. She couldn't be with us today because it's so early for her, but she said if you go back to when Ned is in the black cells thinking about Lady and Sansa, Marie says she thinks that Ned might actually be a reason for the disconnect that Sansa has with the Stark identity, if that makes any sense.
So the way she was raised, or
when he killed Lady, he said something. I'll have to pull up her quote, but she had sent me something, and it made a lot of sense when I looked at it. I'll have to get back. I'll have to get back with that. I'm gonna have to pull up the quote.
Oh, and here, like Ray says here in the comments, to go back to what Jamie said, the things we do for love. Yeah. So there are many things. I mean, love is very powerful, and it doesn't have to be love for a single person. It can be basically love for an idea or love for the people. And he's powerful. I mean, for Jon, he may be blind to other things with his quest to make everything better, but just because he's blind to it right now doesn't mean he doesn't care. He may just need that somebody else to make him see. And in the show, we see how Sansa shows him the way to kind of pull him in the right direction, to not be afraid and to be kind of his equal. Like she says, like, you're nothing like Joffrey. Now nobody could say anything to Joffrey,
which is the ultimate compliment. Which Feuerhexe, you cover that in your video. Again, y'all, if you haven't seen the video yet, I mean, it covers everything. There's not really too much that I can think of that you didn't cover.
Oh, there are still a few things. A lot of things.
Okay.
But people are, what? Yeah.
No, go ahead.
People are making more Lord of the Rings comparisons in the chat, which is really awesome. And you're really absolutely right. Aragorn is basically, he was raised by the elves after his father died, and he's the rightful heir to the throne of Gondor. And he was raised by Elrond, the Elven King. And Elrond's daughter fell in love with him, so he basically fell in love with the man who raised him, with the daughter of the man who raised him. And actually Aragorn and Arwen didn't. Well, she grew up. She also grew up at Lothlorien, I think, with her grandmother Galadriel. So they didn't really grow up together, but I think they reunited after a time, and then Arwen ended up with Aragorn, and they're really, really very strong, strong parallels to Jon and Sansa, I think. And also, people were comparing Daenerys to Gollum and Frodo, because both Frodo and Gollum were kind of turning into villains because of the power of the ring, and Daenerys is basically going darker and darker because she's so obsessed with power. So yeah.
Exactly. And and then here that they were raised together. So, and then when you mentioned, Jen, that there may be something that her father did, just like how John's father, we don't see, at least I don't see it. I would say the mother did it. Maybe Kat was the one who was trying to make that divide by calling him bastard. She never called him by any other name. And that one time when she called him by his name of John, it was meant as an insult, that she wanted him, or she would like for him to be in place of Bran. That's the only time when she actually called him by his name, not calling him bastard to his face. So, and then in the show for Lord of the Rings, again, kind of, again, as I said, I watched it yesterday, I clicked on it, and then it landed on a scene where where again, I forgot his name, her father's name. She sees that vision of, if she leaves him, there could have been a child if she had stayed. And her father apparently knew about it, just chose not to tell her that there could be something from their relationship, that their relationship could be beautiful, or could have been beautiful if they had stayed together. So somehow she finds it out on her own and decides to stay with Aragon. So here, like, Kat is maybe trying to separate her other children, or even Sansa. I mean, Sansa is her prized possession in a way, like women are back then in that story. And I'm sure it would be one of her worst nightmares if actually Sansa or Arya, or Sansa in this case, would choose Jon, the bastard, to be together versus the prince or some other high lord. That would be the biggest slap in Kat's face at that moment. So I guess, again, George might have switched the father from Lord of the Rings to mother in Game of Thrones to be Catherine or Catelyn.
Yeah, that's really very interesting. Yeah, I really keep thinking about what Caitlin would say if she knew that her precious daughter is going to end up with the bastard that she always hated. Yeah, that's really a very interesting comparison there, Elrond and Caitlin. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Also, for the whole thing, I mean, again, kind of going back to Lord of the Rings, there is the whole battle between uniting the people. Not even battle at that point, because people are scattered. Like in Game of Thrones, there are those 7 kingdoms. They're not united. They're kind of united, but there's still there's the War of the Kings, and they're fighting just like there's fighting in Lord of the Rings between, or not even, let's say, Gondor, not the stewards of Gondor, not kneeling to the rightful king, and there's that bickering, and they didn't come to our aid, we're not going to go to their aid. So they're bickering, they're maybe not fighting for the throne, but they're not uniting, where there is this danger, impending danger,
Right.
real thing. And then this while they're bickering, there is this quest for stopping the evil. Right, there's another quest. So in Game of Thrones, we have people fighting, arguing who's the king, who's legitimate, this and that. While in the background, like, Jon has that background theme, and then Sam being his helper or advisor of logic. Yes, of maybe not the ring of power, but something of power. Something is over there, and something will need to be destroyed or neutralized. And that's going to be separate from the battle. And of course, it is separate from the battle of the kings over there.
Let's go here to Crazy Girl Productions in the chat. Don't forget the banners. For me, that sells the comparison. Aragon's banners and Jon's cloak. Please explain, Crazy Girl Productions.
What was Aragon's banner again? I don't remember.
That's why I'm telling her to just put in the chat exactly what she's talking about, because I can admit when I don't know something. I don't know that comparison, but I would certainly like to hear it. Oh, Dana answered. Y'all go ahead, everybody. The White Tree of Gondor.
The White Tree of Gondor, right.
My husband's in the background going, what about it? He's a big Lord of the Rings fan.
The book 3 times.
Okay, thank you, hon.
I'm kind of like y'all with the Game of Thrones and Lord of the Rings.
Okay. Aaron makes Aragon's king's banners.
That's right.
And then just like Sansa made, and it's a Crazy Girl Production says, Aaron makes his banners, and just like Sansa made Jon Stark cloak.
Okay, well, let's go to this for a minute, because this is actually something I don't think we paid enough attention to in our 2 previous chats. When Sansa reaches the wall and she's cold, Jon takes his cloak off and cloaks her. when Sansa makes Jon not only a cloak, but his first direwolf cloak. She cloaks him. They have cloaked each other.
Yeah.
What
They are married.
in this world? And, there are other rituals. There are some people who believe, you can get married in the church or whatever, but in some cultures, just introducing somebody as your wife is tantamount to a marriage, or jumping a broom, or, a few other things. So just the fact that they've actually cloaked each other, not just one or the other, but both of them. And then for Sansa to cloak him, and really his first ornamentation, I believe, with the direwolf, it's that's pretty solid right there, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind that Jon probably has never gotten any gift before in his life, and this was pretty much, if you don't really, he got Longclaw with the direwolf pommel, but still, that was the cloak thing. What really was probably the first time he actually got something with a direwolf on it. It was a real Ned Stark cloak, so. Yeah, that was so meaningful on so many levels for him. On the one side, of course, because he finally got something with a direwolf on it, and because Sansa is really, like, she's done so many times. She's really treating him like a Stark,
Yeah. Yeah,
I
in
made
the
it
comments
just
here.
like fathers, or as near as I could remember.
Yeah, here in the comments, Connie Super says she treats him like Cat treated Ned. They act married too, Miss Quentin Pye says.
There's lots of good comments, y'all.
Yeah.
Let's read all these.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, Crazy Girl Productions said that.
Yes.
Sansa, I loved her since season 1. Me too. The White Chair, okay. Revengeance says, I got some light up goblets for you, Russell. I guess she means some Lord of the Rings goblets, but we got to move on from that. If anyone creates Jon's new sigil, if he has one, it's going to be Sansa. I think there's foreshadowing for this too. In Sansa's dress from season 6, the one Jon comments he likes.
Yeah, Viper Run said that. Mm-hmm.
If you notice the dress, it is a light-colored embroidered wolf on a dark dress background. Yeah, I believe it's a very beautiful cobalt blue.
Yeah, and kind of combining the two, I would seriously, again, this is kind of me wanting stuff. I don't know if they're gonna go that route, but I would love to see a combination. I don't want one house to win over in their name, and I don't see anything wrong with one name dying out. I mean, change is progress, hopefully, and if they end up combining the sigils, creating something new, I see it as I don't see it as a defeat. I'm not going to be crying over that personally. I would like to see something different.
I don't either. I see that as 100% a victory.
Oh, yeah. I'm just wondering what it's going to be, and it better be good. So kind of in the chat, I'm kind of looking at the chat, and I think we mentioned it before a little bit. I'm interested in what you all have to say about if they're gonna change the names, what are they gonna be? Like I mentioned in the beginning of this video that I would like to see either Stark-Garyans or Star-Garyans. Somebody again mentioned something different. I see new people here right now, so I would love to see your opinions too. Let's say Sansa, we're still on Sansa and Jon, how they would combine the two, Stark and Targaryen. And also whatever sigil they're gonna choose. I'd love to see your opinion on it too, if you can type it in.
It's really difficult because I really can't really think of any way they can really come up with a new name or something, because I really I think how Stark will somehow, I said it like how Stark will live on and kind of experience a restoration in a way, because everyone thought House Stark was dead, and it's really difficult how they're supposed to combine that with House Targaryen. Yeah, that's really I really have no idea.
Like in the Battle of the, I call it Battle of the Roses. I forgot the proper name for it. But they take two colors and they combine it. They take the white rose and a red rose and they made them into one rose, multicolored one. So I kept thinking, like, what if they made that?
And rose is a combination of the white rose of York and the red rose of Lancaster.
Yeah, but can we agree that both Jon and Sansa that Jon will be Jon Stark at the end of the story and not Jon Targaryen?
I still like that. I know it sounds funny, but when I see the name Star in it, I keep thinking that he was born under a bleeding star, so that was why I kind of was drawn to the name Star, dropping that K with it.
Yeah.
But then Targaryen should also be included in it. I don't foresee them completely coming up with a name like out of the blue, completely changing it, because that would be like, okay, who are they again? To kind of have a meaning or sounding like both.
Revengeance in the chat says the Sphinx is the riddle, not the Riddler. Maybe a combination.
Yeah.
Dana says it's something he has always wanted, to be a Stark. Exactly. And Feuerhexe covers that in her video, almost by them mirroring Ned and Caitlyn, except for them being not only Ned and Caitlyn 2.0, Ned and Caitlyn Durden, Ned and but they're better. They're better. They're not just amped up Ned and Caitlyn. They're almost like the superhuman Ned and Caitlyn, where they've corrected all their failings. They're coming together, and the problem I have with the Jonsa theory is that it almost seems too happy. What do you guys have to say about that?
I think it's a shocker. To me, it is happy. I like it because I completely don't see Jon and Daenerys. I mean, that's, he did what he did. Poor guy. I'm sorry, because he looked miserable. To me, at least, that face looked kind of miserable. It wasn't passionate. It wasn't like, it didn't do anything for me. Let's just say it this way. But so yeah, I really hope for it to be true. But I think a lot of people who are not looking at our streams or anybody else's streams, I think they may be surprised or kind of even offended, like, oh my gosh, his sister. But truly, she's not his sister. So that would be a shock for people who are not following, the streams like we're having them here. We're going deep into all that. They may not. And when they see brother and sister looking at each other like that, they may be a little bit offended until they realize that they are not brother and sister, that they're cousins, like all other cousins that got married in Game of Thrones.
Something we need to talk about.
Yeah, exactly.
Sansa Stark has a namesake. She's not the first Sansa Stark. In fact, there is another Sansa Stark in the Stark bloodline, I think, who was, let me see, let me get this right. Was she
She married her uncle Jon Stark.
Mm-hmm.
She was the niece of Jon Stark. Yeah, there was another Sansa Stark.
And a very kind of they were considered, I think they were only half, she was only related to him. It wasn't a full relation, it was half, which even though we know it's going to turn out that these two are cousins, people think that they're half brother and sister. I believe she was his half niece.
Yeah.
Yeah, so all that actually, to me, let's say if I weren't in those discussions like we have right now, if I, let's say, completely did not even think about Game of Thrones and went into last season, and if that would be the reveal, like Jon and Sansa are going to have to end up together for political reasons to join North and South, I would be shocked. I mean, that would be a good shocker for me. But then, realizing why they're together and know that it's not bad that they're together because they are just like other cousins in Game of Thrones, I would like it. That would be a big shocker for me. I mean, right now, I'm not going to be shocked. I'll be very pleased if that actually turns out to be true.
Yeah, I think nobody seems to really expect Jon and Sansa. It seems to be so crazy that that's probably exactly why it will happen. Because for some reason everyone thinks, everything is about Jon and Daenerys for some reason. But I don't. I think Jon and Sansa will not be a happy ending for all the people who are rooting for.
Yeah.
Daenerys.
Yeah, and for there was this talk about Daenerys dreaming or thinking about the lemon tree, right? Always having that, not always, but having that dream from time to time. After looking up what lemon symbolizes, somewhere it said that it's a symbol of disappointment. So I'm thinking she is going for that throne right after her brother died, and all that she did thus far was to reclaim her title. But in a dream, somehow she is kind of going or thinking or missing that lemon tree, which is disappointment. So I'm thinking, yeah, I mean, she's a great conqueror, but either she won't get to rule, or if she starts actually ruling, it may be disappointment to her, or she may basically be disappointed because she will never get a chance to rule because whatever, her death somehow. So again, just that reminded about that symbolism in Game of Thrones, that lemon tree must mean something. And looking at the meaning of it, the one that I found was basically disappointment.
Well, and we know that Sansa really likes lemon cakes, especially in the first part of our story.
Yeah.
And Jon and Sansa both had a lot of disappointed hopes, but quickly overcame that.
Yeah, so with that, Jen, that is brilliant. I have not connected the two. Daenerys wanting that lemon tree and Sansa loving lemon cakes. Oh my gosh, you just made my day, Jen. So my thought was like, okay, what do you do when you get lemons? I would say go buy oranges, but Sansa basically will make a cake out of those lemons, out of that disappointment.
Right. You know what? And that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah.
You get lemons to make lemonade. You
Make
get
a cake.
lemons to make a lemon cake.
Yeah. So who knows? Maybe Daenerys is the one who will get it, who will help them achieve, peace or win over, or equalize the world. And Sansa will be the one left with those lemons after Daenerys is gone, and she'll make that, cake. Yeah. And she'll enjoy it too. We have some great comments here too. I wanted to go back.
We surely do.
A lot
This
of
is
great
an awesome chat, you guys.
There's somebody who made me smile a little bit about my crazy idea when I said, "Oh, I really want that the sigil to be combining the dragon and the wolf by having a fire-breathing wolf." And somebody here, oh my gosh, I have to find it. Somebody mentions here that what about a wolf with wings, like dragon wings? I'm telling you, I would love to see that. I would love to see a combo.
Isn't there a creature that is kind of something like that with, is it a griffin? Or what is it that is kind of like that with wings or whatever? Yeah, my husband is saying, yeah, the griffin is.
But
doesn't
griffin doesn't it have a beak?
Yeah, I believe you're right. Yes.
A lion with wings?
It's a lion with wings.
Lion with wings. I wonder what the symbolism is behind it. If anybody in the chat knows what's the symbolism behind, behind griffin, it's a rebirth, right? Like they die from they rise from the ashes, right?
I think that's the phoenix.
Oh, phoenix. See, oh my gosh, griffin, exactly.
That's okay.
I'm mixing
let's go to some comments in the chat. Delusional whore. Have you guys discussed the inverse parallels Jonsa have with Jaime, Cersei, that solidifies Jonsa for me. They have parallels with Ned and Kat, Rhaegar and Lyanna, and Cersei and Jaime. It can't be a coincidence. I couldn't agree more. And yeah, we have talked about it. Let's talk about it a little more, if that's okay with you guys.
They also have parallels with Jaime and Brienne. For example, when Brienne was in season 6, when she was leaving on the boat and she was waving back at Jaime at the castle, at the Blackfish Castle, that really that looked exactly like the goodbye scene of Jon and Sansa in season 7. And also when Jaime handed Brienne the sword back, Oathkeeper, he said, "It's yours. It will always be yours." And Jon said to Sansa, "The North is yours." I think they are really nice parallels.
Yeah, that is, and then you covered in your video, particularly when that the cinematography and everything right there when Brienne says, "Once again, I ask you to let me shield your back," and basically pledges herself to Sansa. It so mirrors Caitlyn and Brienne. And I'm sorry, I just don't think all these things can be coincidence.
Here, there's a comment here. From Samid Sen. It says D&D are the sort of troll through, so wouldn't put anything past them in a comment. So yeah, I mean, for all of that, there are a lot of things that may not come true, and I would kind of hate for that to happen. I love, even if I expect it, in a way, I don't mind it actually happening. Obviously, if it's too many things in the show, that's kind of boring. But I don't know if George actually meant for people to dissect it the way we're doing it, number of years after he wrote the first book. And a lot of the clues, and most of the clues thus far, are in the first book. So anything that's in the first book, I see it as a clue, like a legitimate clue. Later on, maybe when he saw like people are catching on to his hints, maybe he will want to kind of leave a couple things not fulfilled. But from the first book, I take like almost anything can happen, and it technically should happen.
Okay, let's go to some comments in the chat. Mackenzie Burns says, like, the only hint of romance I feel comes from Daenerys when she tells Jon no, he wants to go north of the wall, and she says no. Let me see. Dana says, Bon Appetit has a great lemon cake recipe. All right. Okay, Viper Rand says a griffin is a lion dragon. Okay, thank you for clearing that up. Sansa is the wolf with bat wings. This is from Crazy Girl Productions. Do you guys know that from the book? Actually, yes, we do. We do. Feuerhexe, didn't you cover that as well?
That Sansa is the
wolf with bat wings.
Yeah, I think I posted a link to a meta text that was kind of writing about. I didn't cover that in the video.
Okay, but I do know what you speak of. Okay, a wolf with dragon wings, which is the name of a great Sansa and Jonsa meta. Okay, Connie Super, I think this is a very important comment. Hey, Arya mentions she wishes she was a wolf who could fly. Jojen said he's supposed to release the winged wolf.
And Jen, I don't know if you said it already because there was some sound issue for me. Connie Super says, hey, Arya mentions she wishes she was a wolf, could fly away. Jojen said he's supposed to release the winged wolf.
Right.
Yeah.
In books, people think Sansa turned into a wolf and grew wings like a bat to escape King's Landing after Joffrey is killed. That's a very good one, Crazy Girl Productions. So we get a lot of imagery of Sansa being a wolf with wings.
And for those things that are combining or giving us hints about that the two houses will be combined, that is again, looking at our history, or our meaning our real history, for the past couple hundreds of years, the political marriages, I mean, marriage back then was completely political. So here, and I'm still thinking that Sansa, even though in the past she has been treated like property, being married off to whoever needed to marry the North. I think we already said it last time, but I'm still rooting for Sansa not to be single, but to take over the power and be the one who actually recommends the union, not to be the one who is told by maesters or other advisors that, hey, you should be with Jon, as to combine the houses to appease everybody so that the North and South are not fighting. I really want her to be the one who says it, to make it a political marriage. And maybe at that point she will have some of the feelings for Jon, especially knowing, or maybe at that point she won't even know if they're not brother and sister. Maybe she'll have to make that decision while she still thinks they're brother and sister. I don't know how that would fly with the advisors, but when they know finally that they're not related like that, I'm still wanting for that to happen. I want her to say it.
Yeah, we talked about this. I think already. I definitely agree that Sansa will be the one who will initiate it. And I have a question actually about, because we were talking about combining houses. If if Jon and Sansa get married, it wouldn't mean that Sansa becomes a Targaryen, right? Jon can actually become a Stark, because I got a comment in my video, and someone said that since Sansa is the last heir of House Stark or something, she can choose to she can actually give the name of her house to her husband, so she can actually make Jon a Stark. I was really wondering, if Sansa has to become a Targaryen if she marries Jon, or if Jon can choose to take the Stark name, because that's what he always wanted.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, technically, Jon, looking at the history of he is the true heir, I guess. I mean, Targaryens, technically, it should be Gendry, I mean, in a way. But again, Targaryens were in power, so they won. They killed the last kings, and they became rulers, I guess. And then it's like back and forth. But Jon should be the one. But then again, who was it? Lady Mormont? Aren't her children named Mormont, not after her husband?
No, exactly right. And a perfect example.
Yeah. So
I mean,
Maige Mormont named all of her. I think she had all girls, and they all kept their surname. And I don't think any of them. Maybe the one who got killed at the Red Wedding, but I don't remember it specifically naming any husbands. So it might be that they just, they never even got married. They just, yeah.
Yeah, and they're recognizing that as nobody is questioning her children being illegitimate. I mean, the little bear, nobody said, hey, you're a bastard. And she technically, who knows? I mean, if she kept her mother's name, somebody could say you're a bastard. You don't have Mormont as a last name. Your last name is from whoever. Nobody said that. So that must be, the law in the North too, I guess. I mean, unless they skipped over some logic, which I hope they
And
haven't.
Mackenzie Burns writes, "Living my Rhapsody. I wrote about that idea in the comments with Feuerhexe." Okay, yeah, we always want to give credit where credit is due here in the Wolf's Den.
Mm-hmm.
Dana, maybe Gendry can rule the South. I agree.
Yeah, what about Gendry? He needs to play a major role next season, right? Because actually he's a bastard, but he would be the heir to the throne, really, I think.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, with like a lot of people say like Arya, she will never settle, she will never this, and we hear her. And I'm not trying to be a romantic or anything like, oh, she should because they belong together, blah, blah, blah. Not that. I'm thinking a lot of people say, oh, like, I will never do this. And then life happens and there you go. And they do that. Or for example, Jon says, oh, I never want to have a bastard, this and that. And who knows, probably he'll have something going on with Daenerys. There's most likely gonna be a baby, and if they don't get married, it's gonna be a bastard, right? And he may end up not marrying Daenerys to have that child to be legitimate, and he may have a bastard, even though he said, "Oh, I never want to have a bastard," or "I will never have a bastard."
Right.
Like Sansa, oh, I want to be a lady. Well, right now she is being a lady, but she was treated horribly. She never lived like a lady. She lived like I don't even know how to call how she lived like a prisoner, like worthless piece of nothing.
I agree, Samit said. Dany's not going to be happy, in my opinion, when she finds out that Jon has a better.
Oh, Jen, you muted yourself.
Okay. Also, I want to welcome Marie Hill of Game of Theories with Marie into the chat. She's sometimes on our panel, and we want to say hey to her. And Cameo and Revengeance and Connie Super, Delusional Whore, Jennifer Aguilera, Pete Samid Sand, Connie Super, Dana. Thank y'all so much. Mackenzie Burns, Revengeance, Cameo. I want to thank y'all so much for coming to the chat today. This is quite a big chat. Crazy Girl Productions. You guys don't let me leave anybody out. Viper Wren.
Yeah, it's going quickly here.
Yeah, we had a couple. Yeah, it's going quicker than I'm used to. I think this is the biggest live chat I have ever had. So,
let's keep going. Let's keep going.
Yeah, we're going to keep going. Of course, we're going to keep going. All right. Marie Hill said, Russell. Yes. Russell said, hey to you. All right. Yeah, I'm not even halfway through my notes yet. We've had such a lively and delicious discussion here. Okay. I want to go to this, you guys. A known TV trope is snowfall and lovers being in snowfall. We see this when Sansa's alone rebuilding Winterfell. We see her in the snowfall. Jon giving Sansa that long forehead kiss. We see that scene a few times, and let's talk about that. Let's talk about the cinematography and the things that are not said that point to this being a real thing.
What do you mean it being a real thing? Meaning Jon and Sansa?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
The thing, let's talk, if we can, if we can get some comments out here and you guys comment. Things that aren't said specifically, that like I said, the subtext, the cinematography here is very beautiful, and I think talks a lot about what is going on but is not said, and that's what cinematography is for.
Yeah, Dana here says when he leaves for Dragonstone, exactly like that snow falling.
That long lingering look.
Yeah. Like, I don't see that as, I have a brother. Okay, he's an older brother. He's a very protective brother. let's just say my brother never gave me that look, and if he would ever do that, I would send him, like, hey,
Yeah,
what's
I'm sorry. I'm very close to my brother. We're very good friends. We love
Yeah.
each other. He's my brother. But
Yeah.
he never, when I leave to come back to the state I live in, we don't live that right on top of each other or anything. He doesn't give me a long, lingering goodbye. He doesn't.
Like even like a kiss. I mean, I'm always, we are very not emotional. Like, we express ourselves. So I'll always give him a hug, and he'll give me a hug, and our family is very close. But I don't ever see him giving me like a long forehead kiss. Like that would be just creepy. So kind of in the show, when I saw that, I never actually thought about it when I first saw it, because everybody expresses themselves differently. I guess families are different. But then looking at it again, it's like, yeah, no, that's not what brother would do, I don't think. At least not my brother.
Right.
Yeah, that's really one of my favorite things about Jon and Sansa. Basically everything about them is very subtle, and there's so much subtext. It's really on a whole different level. The symbolism, the images, the cinematography. It's very subtle, and especially that goodbye look that was really, really very, very heart-wrenching. And also not just Jon's look, also Sansa's look when she was looking at him leaving. She looked like a wife saying goodbye to her husband who's leaving for a war or something. That was definitely, that was not platonic at all, I
And
think.
here, Miss, there's a comment from Miss QWERTY. I don't know how to, I'm sorry, pronounce it, QWERTY Pie. It says the candlelight, the snowfall, the soft looks. I mean, yeah, it all screams romance to me. I mean, this is how romance is written, I guess. And so there's more romance between Jon and Sansa than I ever saw between Daenerys and Jon. But again, I may be, biased to that. I prefer different approach to romance, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Jon and Sansa really get all the classic romantic tropes. And, if I remember back during season 7, looking at the internet, because, of course, everyone was, hyping up Jon and Daenerys, but really everything was just about sex. It was really, everything was just, they're going to
and it's not even passionate sex. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but I didn't see any passion. I saw like duty.
And you guys, I rewatched the other day when she gives him that impassioned speech. Do you know how I survived? Because of me. I'm sorry. That just does not inspire love.
Who is this?
Not at all, Daenerys.
That
You know
first,
what I'm talking about? When she's like, I was raped, I was sold, and do you know how I survived? Not believing in any gods. Y'all know?
I don't. Yeah, I wonder. I don't think Sansa. But again, we don't see it. But again, we judge by what we see on a show. We cannot read between the behind the scenes in a way, or we can in a way. Like, did Sansa ever complain to Jon like a whiny way, like, oh, I was through this, and that? I mean, I know she mentions.
In fact, she didn't even elaborate on her torture, basically. You didn't hear her say anything like, he wasn't so nice to me. All you heard her say was, and anybody in the chat, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm wrong sometimes. I just love this, but I am wrong sometimes. But what she did say was, I would rather die than go back there. I will kill myself before go back there. So she says so much without saying much. Whereas we get Daenerys saying a lot without saying much either.
Yeah, Sansa really only talked about her abuse with a Littlefinger, because she told him everything she had suffered in that scene, but she never did that. She never did that in front of Jon.
And I took that when she was going off on Littlefinger as more her anger, because she wasn't thinking of marrying Ramsay Bolton. That wasn't an answer or a venue or an avenue she would have taken if it hadn't been suggested by him. And therefore, she wanted to know, now that she got to know him a little better and knew by his own admission that almost everything he does has purpose and he doesn't do anything just because he's nice, you know.
Yeah.
And she wanted to know if he just made her a bad match or if he literally knew that her body, soul, and mind were in danger, because a lesser woman wouldn't have survived that. In fact, if she hadn't have been conditioned for a little bit of torture from Joffrey, and definitely the verbal abuse she had suffered from Joffrey and Cersei, she probably that probably would have been a serious shock to her system. But since she has already been treated so harshly, been beaten in public, humiliated, multiple times, not only in word but in deed, she probably couldn't have handled it.
Yeah. Yeah, and there are great comments along that too here. And there are many. I'm not sure if I can read all of them, but they're basically, a lot of people here are mentioning that wait until Jon sees Sansa's vengeful side. Like and I'm sorry, I lost the comment. I don't know who said it. But then the comment said something like Jon was upset about Sansa trying to punish the two houses that were against the Starks, and she wanted to take away their lands, blah blah blah, and Jon got upset. So let's just see what Jon says, thinks, or does after he learns that Daenerys is burning people, like she burned Sam's brother. Like, she showed no mercy. So kind of power hungry.
Very much so. Let's get into some of these comments. Let me back up here. Okay. Okay, Samid saying, it could be the opposite of Rob. Everyone expects Jon to marry Dany if she is pregnant, but Jon is different now than at the beginning of the story. I agree. Sansa's a different person. Jon's a different person.
But that would really, that if Jon marries Daenerys just because she's pregnant, I think I would really throw my computer out of the window. Seriously, I don't want him to. That would be like what Sansa has done like twice now, just marrying for not for love, but
exactly
for duty, because maybe he should have thought about that before he did what he did.
Yeah, and if there's a baby, I mean, I see them, like Daenerys says about breaking the will. What if Jon, if hopefully we're still talking about him surviving and Sansa, let's say being together, what if Jon actually decides, as a king or ruler or co-ruler of whatever area, that bastards have a right to things too? Like, he was a bastard and he never wants a bastard to feel like nothing. So let's say there's a baby with Daenerys, and I'm thinking Daenerys is gonna die somehow. So I see Jon completely treating that son or daughter or both as legitimate heirs to whatever. I don't see, let's say if he has children with another woman, hopefully Sansa at some point, I would be disappointed if he treated the children that he had with another woman as legitimate. Yeah, I want him to basically break the wheel, create a new thing where bastards are equals, at least in his eyes.
Masani talked about. Let's go to delusional horse comment here, which touches on that. I don't get the Daenerys baby. Targaryens get mad because of their incest. Why would GRRM write a series warning us about Targaryen incest, turning them mad, and then end the story with basically Targaryen incest.
Yeah, exactly.
We all agree with you here, and that's why we think this is so valid. Let me get some of these comments.
I don't, I'm wondering if Daenerys is really, if the witch really cursed her, put a curse on her, or if she, simply can't have children because Targaryens are so inbred that every child they would have would be a complete
Agree.
monster.
Yeah, they need new blood, and this is the same thing going on in our history too, and not currently, but past history. They all were fearing what's going to happen because they were trying to keep families really tight and not, the properties not to go out to the outside. So they kept, being the same pool, gene pool, basically.
Samid Sand, the way Jon and Sansa have been framed from season 6 is very suspect. Laugh out loud. Dana, ooh, my brother is gross in a good way. Delusional whore. A Daenerys baby could be mad because of incest. Dana, hello at Game of Theories with Marie. Hey, Marie. Okay. Like the tormented attraction was supposed to signal lovey vibes. To be honest, Game of Theories with Marie, Danny being preggers makes no sense. There is no time. Mackenzie Burns. John's look at Sansa's lips after the forehead kiss tells it all. Samid Sand. Oh my God. I saw a Tumblr post that pointed out that Sansa licks her lips about 3 times when she reunites with Jon. If they didn't want Sophie to do that, the director would have told her not to. Delusional.
Exactly.
Laughing my ass off. None of us treat our brothers the way Jonsa treat each other.
Exactly.
Miss Cutie Pie. I have a brother, found out he was adopted when he was 12 and I was 8. Gross. Joel Hinky, I think. Joel Hinky. And why would Daenerys get pregnant now after having tons of sex with some very healthy men? I don't buy it either. Viper Wren. Agreed. Delusional whore. He's built all that inbreeding as one of the great mistakes of the Targaryens. He's not going to have a Targaryen pregnancy be any kind of win in the end. Dana. The only time there was a heavy snowfall that wasn't romantic that I can remember was when Ramsay showed Sansa the flayed woman. Viper Wren. Jonsa looking at each other is more romantic than the boat sex. I don't care. That's delusional to say. Kit Harington and Sophie Turner's natural chemistry is just so much better. It's off the charts. That filial forehead kiss in season 6, episode 10 was more romantic than boat sex. Samid Sand. Game of Theories with Marie. I agree. I think the baby is a red herring. Everyone expects there to be a baby, and it will be shocking if there isn't one.
Exactly. I think the Jon Daenerys baby is such a that's a bigger red herring than the Jon Snow is dead and won't be back issue.
Connie Super says Jon and Sansa kept apart by Cat. Somebody else has mentioned this before.
Mm-hmm.
So that there'd be no flirty business like what went on at River Run with Peter.
Good one.
I thought the same, Elamar. My brother and I don't even hug. So the hugging and lingering kiss on the forehead says a lot. This is Game of Theories with Marie. I agree. Me and my brother are very close. He would never kiss me on the forehead. Never. He would give me a hug, a short hug.
Yeah. And then I know like people say, oh, maybe it's because, somebody is not good at portraying their emotions. No, these are great actors. They can fake it like you can imagine. So I truly do not believe that directors or whoever was in charge of releasing Dany and Jon scene would be fine with them giving something that is less than perfect. If they wanted there to be chemistry, for them to have chemistry, they would have made it happen. They would make them redo the scene until we see some sparks. And there were no sparks.
Exactly.
It was a lot of,
nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
Well, Hinky says, Who stops in the middle of sex to look at I found this breath extremely suspect. Who stops in the middle of sex to look at the woman? You don't stop if you're liking it. Laugh out loud.
Yeah. You can look, but you don't have to stop things.
Mackenzie says Sansa would never throw out her horror she endured to Jon. Mackenzie also said earlier, and I wanted to read this, that she enjoys the way we tried to get everyone in the chat. That's because you guys are all a part of this. I started this channel somewhat because I got tired of being in a chat, being A, bullied and told, you don't know what you're talking about. Did you even read the books? Or B, just left out. You know, like I keep saying, I just love this. I am no bona fide expert. I don't have a degree in Game of Thrones. Everybody is welcome in the Wolf's Den. Nobody is wrong. Nobody is right. We're just friends having a conversation here. And I do want everybody to feel a part and be included, because you are a part of it and you are included. And thank you very much, Mackenzie, because that is always what I had in mind and what I wanted to accomplish. Thank you all. Okay, guys. Any other Elamar Feuerhexe, anything else you see that any comments that you see that you want to read out? Read all of them if you like.
There is a comment here by Connie Super, and she writes, she loves Drogo. So from that comment got me thinking about, again, I know we're talking about Sansa and Jon, but talking about Sansa and Jon also involves talking about why others like Dany doesn't fit with Jon. So by saying she loves Drogo, and we know that we're talking about Dany loving Drogo, she goes through, she in a way was raised by seeing slavery. And I think that Jon will not be fine with any of it, where Dany will be basically, and she says, oh, I don't want slavery. But she was, in a way, like, she was in love with a man who loved slavery.
She's a hypocrite.
Yeah. I mean, I get that she can change. She can see that. And she didn't like it. She said, oh, there's going to be no more taking, no more raping. And there's going to be, if you want to take a woman, you have to marry her. And she says that, and I get it. And that's how her thing starts. But she still is in love with that man. And I guess I can understand, not personally, but I can kind of see why we don't choose who we fall in love with. We may love somebody with all their flaws. But I'm wondering, and Drogo was nice to her. It's not shown in the show. And for people who were not here to discuss other chapters in the past, where you were discussing Dany and Drogo in previous chapters, I mean, in a book, Drogo was nothing like Drogo in the show. He was more cruel, but then he was more gentle to Dany. So I kind of can see how she would love him, especially, you know, being kind of not kidnapped, but she chose things. In a way, she didn't have a choice, but then she kind of agreed to things. So I know she loves him, and I don't see Jon being anything like Drogo. I don't think Jon would fill that need that Dany has. So not only I don't see Jon liking or loving or agreeing with Dany, I just don't see Dany being okay with Jon, because he's completely different from Drogo.
Exactly. I absolutely don't understand why she's so into Jon, because, she clearly is, because she's throwing him these looks and all, but I absolutely don't understand why she's so into him, because she doesn't know anything about him, and also he's completely different from her previous guys. I thought she always liked kind of the asshole type, like Drogo and Dario in a way, because they killed for her and everything, and Jon is like, he's the complete opposite, really. Why is she? I really don't get it. Why is she so into him? I don't know.
I agree, Mackenzie. Yeah. I'm wondering, I think Daenerys was so young when she was married to Drogo, especially in the books. I think she might be confusing what she deems as love, because she's really never known much love, with a sense of freedom and a sense of power that she gained from becoming Khaleesi. Now, if she had been a not that loved second wife who was just used for sex, breeding, whatever you want to call it, I I don't think, she would have fond memories of that relationship. But the fact that she won his favor and garnered a bit of freedom and a bit of power, I think also, changes that dynamic quite a bit.
Yeah, Delusional Horse said that she's into Jon because she thinks Jon is a special snowflake like herself.
Yeah.
Y'all are all very funny. We got some really funny stuff up in here.
But that's really true, because we know Jon came back from the dead because his resurrection was teased, but Daenerys still doesn't know about it. All she knows is that he took a heart to his life for his people, but they never talked about his resurrection, what happened to him. She still doesn't know about that. I think she might be fascinated by a certain image she's got of him, because she kind of sees herself in him, because she sees herself as a savior, and Jon is kind of a savior. So she's basically kind of falling in love with herself in a way, because we know she's very self-obsessed in a way, or basically she's very self-obsessed, and maybe she sees herself in him in a way.
Yeah, I mean, she sees or suspects that he cheated death. Looking at him again, for that we only have the show, obviously, but so she sees that as him cheating death, and she also knows that she cheated death at least twice. So in a way, like you said, she can see him being equal or on the same level as she is. And here, there's another comment from Marie. Game of Theories with Marie. It says, I think Jon is using Dany. Exactly. Like we said in the previous one, I think I said that,
Yes.
again, I keep picturing like, and I know I'm being silly. I have like maybe a judgment about what things should look like. But when Jon is getting ready to knock on her door, I mean, he looks like he really had to take some liquid courage to get there. And the Tyrion standing behind when we see Tyrion.
It was a funny look. He didn't look like, when he even says to, I believe, Dario, or doesn't he have look, she needs to be, or he tells Daenerys, I'm proud of you for ending that, or whatever. You need to make yourself available for marriage or whatever. But let's go to that for a minute. I'm glad you mentioned our favorite Lannister, Tyrion.
Yeah, Tyrion and
and Theon both mention Sansa.
Yeah.
These two characters have two people in common, basically. Three people. They both have personal relationships with Daenerys, Jon, and Sansa.
Yeah. So Tyrion was the one who was married to her, and obviously Theon was the one who was helping Ramsay to get her in bed and all that lovely stuff. So yeah, Jon is very it was, I think we mentioned it in previous videos, that Jon was ticked off by either just mentioning that they mentioned her name. But for Tyrion, I still think like he's an advisor to everybody. That's why I keep saying I want him to be the one who actually writes. If there's a narrator, eventually I want it to be Tyrion, because he's there advising and observing. He wasn't everybody who's important had a scene with Tyrion or some plot with Tyrion. So to me, that look that Tyrion had after Jon was already in her room, it is a look of worry, but a worry of, okay, I wonder if Jon sold it, basically. I see Jon and Tyrion having a discussion before Jon goes in there. Having, okay, like you need to make her happy. This is the queen. that everybody was trying to please this way or the other way. You better sell whatever you're selling. She better believe you. So that look that Jon had, it wasn't like he wasn't giddy with excitement. He wasn't like, oh my gosh, this is happening. He was like, oh my God, it's happening. I hope I'm gonna be I hope I can go through with it. Basically, that was the look I saw.
Definitely.
So Tyrion being there, I don't see jealousy. I see worry, and worry for the
I don't see
fact that
jealousy at all.
yeah, and I see worry for the fact that hopefully Danny will buy it. That's it. That was my yeah.
If he's supposed to be jealous, then that would mean that really every man in Danny's life is automatically in love with her, even Tyrion, for whatever reason. And I'm so, like Marie said in the chat, I'm so sick of that too, because everyone is worshipping Daenerys and every man falls in love with her. I'm so over that, really. And Jon will totally, I absolutely don't think he's in love. He will totally break that pattern.
Yeah.
I want to take us back for a minute.
Yeah, unless people really claim or want to accuse Kit Harington of being a terrible actor because
I don't think he is.
He doesn't manage to act in love with Emilia Clarke, but I really don't think so. I don't think that's the problem. He's simply not supposed to act in love, you know?
I agree. I want to take us back for a minute to what I think is really going to be the straw that broke the camel's back for the Daenerys thing not working out. Cersei tells Sansa, oh gosh, I believe way back in probably Clash or something, she when she's giving her some of her little free tutorial lessons in how to be a queen or whatnot, she says that the people must fear her. And Sansa thinks to herself, no, I always heard that the way to your people's heart was to get them to love you. If I am ever queen, I will make them love me. And I think that's honestly going to be the defining thing. I think Jon would be appalled. And let's not forget, this woman has just burned to death his best friend's father and brother. And even though he knows that Randall Tarley wasn't a kind man, he really was only doing the honorable thing, which would be to, well, I guess you could look at it both ways, because he turned on Alina Tyrell, who would have been his direct, but like you say, you swear an oath to your high lord, you swear an oath to your king. So it could be looked at both ways. But let's not forget that everything here is connected. And I don't think that Jon, we see him forgive people who have previously even taken up arms against him in his house. But she doesn't. She burns people alive, which we saw him give mercy to the last person he saw being burned alive, because that's a horrible death in any world, real or imagined. And Jon just don't go in for that kind of shit. I mean, I don't know how I can put it out there any plainer than that.
Yeah, I mean, she could have asked them to, or told them there's always a chance of taking a black, and they're good warriors, and they could be used for the, fight against or tactics or whatever strategy. And she just basically goes crazy and burns them, because I guess she loves burning people. Like, doesn't it say somewhere in the book that she actually kind of enjoyed like looking at them burning? And on the show, we kind of see that when she's burning the cows. Like, we don't see gore, like her being frightened, or it's a revenge. It's like she takes pleasure not just from their death, but death by fire.
She definitely loves that. You can really see that on the show. Like, also in Marine, when she burned those 2 random masters, she didn't even know if they were guilty. She just, after Barristan Selmy died, she just, took these 2 random people and burned them. You could really see that she really enjoys that. And it's really kind of ridiculous, the excuses that people come up with for Daenerys after she burned the Tarlys. She didn't burn. Yeah, they say, Randall Tarly was an asshole, therefore he deserved it, but she didn't burn him because he was a bad person or a wicked or evil person.
She knew nothing about him.
Right.
She burned him because he didn't want to bend the knee.
Yep.
It's like that.
Right.
It's not even exactly.
She burned him because they didn't want to follow her, and there's really absolutely nothing positive about this scene, really.
Oh
And I
my
think-
gosh, Samid saying, oh gosh, you guys, I can't believe I haven't thought of this before. This is brilliant, Samid. Everybody. Father and son being killed mirrors Ricard and Brandon. It was definitely done on
Genius.
purpose. Brilliant. Kudos,
Genius, yeah.
Samid saying, I have never put that together. Genius. Ding, 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 ding.
Yep.
Everybody, this is why we live show. This is why we chat. Come on.
Yeah.
Come
also-
on, y'all.
Also, Barristan Selmy said to Daenerys that the men he burned fathers in front of their sons. That's also a kind of a parallel to what Dany was doing last season. Yeah.
Exactly. And this is so she in the beginning, I have to admit, when I saw her kind of in the show rise to power, it was kind of exhilarating to see somebody being kind of, I mean, she was property. Let's admit it. She wasn't free. She wasn't a slave, but she was property. To see her rise to power, that was kind of interesting, but then I think she gets lost in it. She does the complete 180 from just being property to she cannot control herself. She's burning like fire. You cannot tame her passion for that. I don't see Jon, or maybe the only man that can tame her fire would be Drogo, which maybe, who knows, maybe they will show somehow. We've seen crazier things over there, like shadow babies and whatnot. Anything is possible. Who knows, maybe when Dany dies, she will see that vision of Drogo. Maybe the only man for her was Drogo, because they were equally, I shouldn't say crazy, but like they were equally gone in their agenda. So I don't see Jon being for Dany. I don't think he can ground her at all.
I don't think either. And Miss Squirty Pie says, not only is that reminiscent of Brandon and Ricard, but if you think really to what Cersei did with Illyria and her daughter, punishing them right there in a very cruel and unusual way. Back in the day, to get beheaded was considered a very quick form of death. And especially if you were somebody who was a lord, you would be afforded this privilege out of respect. And she's not even really following the laws of courtesy.
Exactly. She wants to bring fear, whereas Sansa wants to be loved. And it's strange because they both, like it was said previously, they both went through a lot. Kind of similar, but I mean, okay, let's just say this way. Dany was sold, but the only man she could say she was raped, although she wasn't raped. I mean, in the show, it looked like she was, but in the book, she actually chose it. It took them a long time with the whole foreplay. It did not look like that on the show. So when she actually, on her wedding night, she wasn't raped according to the book. Let's not look at the age, because we're not talking about the age right now, because this is Game of Thrones and that stuff is normal back then. So technically, I don't think she was ever raped. And correct me if I'm wrong. Was she ever like, I mean, she didn't, like when they were trying to make a baby, Drogo, and I mean, she felt it as I guess, inconvenient. But then she was glad that he was going only to her, not going to some other women, which she could have been doing. So I guess that was a norm. I don't see that the same exact thing as what Ramsay was doing to Sansa. So Sansa, technically, in my eyes at least, she went through a lot worse than Dany did. And Sansa didn't turn out, at least from what I see, didn't turn out as crazy as Dany. But again, not everybody's the same. Not everybody can take as much.
Sansa's not vengeful.
Exactly. And she did not, like, exactly. Dany is burning people and having pleasure with just looking at how they're dying, not giving them a swift death, giving them death that is scary for anybody else who will not bend the knee.
As does Cersei.
Yeah.
Clay's production brings up Cersei burned her enemies, the High Sparrow, the Tyrells. Kind of same deal.
Yeah.
And
yes.
we know she's a bit crazy. She's a bit thrown off. Everybody knows that. She even admits it, you know?
Yeah.
To an extent.
Yeah, and you know, in the season 7 commentaries, even I think it was David Benioff who compared Sansa's and Dany's way of executing people. At the Littlefinger execution scene, they said that they were really proud of Sophie because she really showed emotions. Because Sansa is clearly she shows compassion when she executes people, and it's a real contrast to Daenerys, who shows no emotions. They really said that, and
that's what a good ruler does.
Yeah,
a good ruler inspires loyalty through love and through good works and good deeds and being honest and doing right, and not only doing right, but practicing what they preach. I'm sorry, but not only the exact opposite of Daenerys, but also the exact opposite of Cersei.
Yeah.
I have a question here. There are a couple comments. Like one was about Dany's baby going back to when she may actually see Drogo. It says where she bears a living child, she would see Drogo again. So that's one thing. But also here about and I lost who said it, but it said basically if she says she was raped, then I believe she was raped. So Dany did say that, right? Didn't she did say that to Jon, right? That she was raped?
Yeah, she said that I was raped and sold and defiled.
Yeah, I wonder who she means, because if she's so crazy about her husband back then, about Drogo, would she speak of
her son and stars? So she's got to be talking about her son and stars.
Yeah, I mean, and she speaks of him with such anger, and I don't want to excuse anybody. You know, husbands can rape wives. I mean, not can, but it happens.
They can.
So it is real.
No means no.
Yeah,
no means no.
Exactly. So I wonder, like, she still loves him so much, she will do anything for him. She sacrificed her unborn child for him, but then the whole Stockholm syndrome, I guess. But you know, she still says that she was raped by him. So I kind of don't see her as fully, you know, all there in her head.
Okay, welcome, Marisol Martinez. Marisol says, is it just her, or when looking closely at Jon's armor, are the two direwolves on his chest different? Even one is bigger than the other. Jon and Sansa definitely represent themselves as the two wolves. Feuerhexe, you covered costume in your video.
Yeah, I didn't notice that. Is it really is the one bigger than the other? I said there's definitely a parallel with the direwolves, because Jon has these two direwolves on his chest plate, and Sansa is wearing a pin with a direwolf couple, and we don't see that anymore after Jon left Winterfell. So that can have different meanings. But there's more. There are really more costume. There are many more potential costume clues. Really,
yeah.
Especially with the
and
hair.
They're there.
With the hair as well, because Sansa's hairstyle in season 7 Lyanna Stark's hairstyle at her wedding with Rhaegar is kind of the same hairstyle that Sansa has in season 7 in many scenes.
Very beautiful.
Also Sansa's season 1 hairstyle is the same as the hairstyle of young Lyanna in the flashback of in Bran's kind of vision.
Subtle clues.
Yeah.
Is there anybody in this stream who actually thinks that Daenerys or Cersei, I'm going to just throw that in there as an option C, but I don't, not for a million years. Does anybody in this chat think that Daenerys is actually more beautiful than Sansa? I mean, red hair's not always my thing, but gosh, Sophie Turner is gorgeous.
Red hair is basically like fiery, meaning
yes, she's kissed by fire. We know Jon has a thing for redheads, which Feuerhexe you also covered in your video.
Yeah, and Cersei also always called Sansa beautiful and pretty and everything.
See, from what I noticed from the show, they're for men, I guess, blonde, frail, not frail, but very feminine, the blondes and all that. I mean, that is very feminine, and maybe seeing power in that, so that she's not just blonde and different kind of beauty, but like for redheads, they look more powerful. I think, for at least for me, like even though Sansa was really treated badly, she looked to me like she has more power, like more defiance in her.
I agree, and that's what I said earlier. I think she's confusing love with her first real taste of anything, of anything. And I think, out of all of her life, that was kind of a turning point, as well as a more happier time in it. She had somebody who was devoted to her, and maybe if she didn't even start out devoted to them, they grew to, at the very least, they grew to care about each other. Even if I know that she thinks she's in love, but let's remember she's very, very young. But at the very least, even if she is confusing her feelings with love, she did care about Drogo, and she was happy to be pregnant and
yes,
I believe have a family of her own, and feel a deep-seated need she's probably felt growing up as an orphan or growing up alone. But I think she's confusing the comfort, the stability, the power, and all that, which is like, again, her first taste of it as a synonym for love, when it not really is love. And she doesn't have anything to compare love to. Not the love of a parent, not the love of a brother, not the love of a caretaker, and not even really the love of a friend. I mean, Missandei was bought. She might have be her real friend now, but in essence, she was bought and then set free, and really doesn't have too many other options. And I know they're always like, it was my choice. It was my choice. Again, you can tell yourself things that because you like the way they sound better than what the truth is. And we all do that. We are all extremely guilty of doing that.
Yeah, and for Missandei, I mean, what else would she be able to do? I mean, right now, why would she go? I mean, she is right next to Dany.
No gauge of friendship, real love. All right, so we've got the blind leading the blind here.
Yeah, there is another comment that really is interesting. By Delusional Horde, she brings up bringing another point back, the parallel with Dany Aerys. Do you all think that Gendry, Jon, against Dany could be a Robert's Rebellion 2.0 after Dany is seen as Mad Queen by Westerosi?
Oh, that would be
That's a good observation. It very well could be.
That would be so awesome.
One thing for sure in this story, everything repeats, as does history.
That would be fantastic.
Yeah,
I would love that.
Y'all, this is an extremely good chat. I'm really enjoying this.
Some people were saying that Jon is more beautiful than Sansa and Dany. I agree.
Well, I can say certainly understand that sentiment. Yes, Jennifer Aguilera, Daenerys was a victim of abuse. I agree with that. I just believe she was taking it a little far. And especially by the standards that were going on, I believe there was a time when if you were married, there was no such thing as rape. Those times have changed. No means no, whether you're married or not.
Exactly.
But there was a time when it wasn't, or saying no, not giving your husband his conjugal rights was a divorceable offense, and you would be found in fault.
Yeah, but that's true. During the Middle Ages, there wasn't really when you were married. The term rape didn't really.
No, right. Unless you weren't married to the person, but as far as you would have never said that just like back, at a certain point you were allowed to beat your wife to a certain, as long as you didn't leave bruises or didn't, do something like that, which is absolutely nuts, but thank goodness for progression.
Yeah. And here, there was a comment like comparing the beauties, and obviously they're both beautiful. I mean, nobody's saying that they're not beautiful, but there is beauty and there is beauty with different, like, Sansa has different kind of beauty, and obviously Daenerys has a different kind of beauty, and they all shine differently. So it's not that one of them is
I
ugly,
agree.
because they're not ugly at all.
No, you're right. I agree.
Yeah.
But I am the type of person, and I honestly really can say this. I like somebody from the inside out.
Exactly.
And I can 100% say that without a shadow of doubt. Beauty fades. And having at one time been a young, maybe considered an attractive girl, I really feel that, in that I am treated very much differently when I go somewhere or when I interact with people than I was 20 years ago. And it's a shame, but it is 100% a real thing. This is also something I think Cersei is facing. And it's very hard on her to suddenly not be the prettiest woman in the room, etc. And it's a real thing to. But you know what? That's why, be smart. Don't worry about being pretty. But if you're both, you're very lucky.
Yeah.
Very
And
lucky.
for Sansa, I always thought that, okay, Dany has her dragons and she has the fire outside, right? She has her dragons, but then Sansa has her fire within. But I just realized that I don't think we've ever seen like I would say, I want to call it steamy, because that's what I think about, like, romance. It can be very steamy too. It doesn't have to be romantic and flower and all that stuff. It can have some steam into it too. So we saw Dany in different situations, right? With Dario, with Drogo. And yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it was anything bad. The worst one was with Jon. I'll never get over that one. Ugh. But I wonder if the showrunners are gonna finally have Sansa show the passion with somebody, like show what her fire that's within, not because she's being sold and being raped, not that, like, her show her own fire at her own terms. I think that will be something good, not just her showing power where she can make her decisions for herself and for others, but also to show her, if she, I mean, hopefully her fire didn't burn out. I hope that Ramsay didn't break her, and I don't think he did. It would be really lovely to see that in a show, that she still has passion. And for her, she's a great actress. So if they did chose to show her passion in different scenes, I would love to see it, how she can portray it, and compare that to other people in Game of Thrones.
You mean passion in the
In bed.
in bed. Okay, yeah.
In bed.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly why I think Sansa definitely she needs there needs to be some sort of love scene for her next season.
She deserves it.
Definitely her character arc needs this kind of closure, you know, and she needs to experience what love really feels like, and they really have to show that, and I definitely think that they will do that next season.
Yeah, I hope that basically Ramsay didn't destroy that in her, because that would be a defeat. That would be showing that she can show, let's say, her face, her outside face, that she's a strong woman. But if she is never able to enjoy herself, basically in bed with anybody, that would be terrible. That would be a terrible price to pay for being married to Ramsay, to have that part of her as being a woman being taken away. That would be sad.
Yeah, I think that's exactly why they had her go through this entire Ramsay rape arc. That they can't do something like that and then not give her any kind of positive turnaround or closure at the end of the story, because that would send a completely terrible message. It would basically say that someone who experienced this will never be able to recover from it, and they really have to send the message that even if you go through hell like this, there's still a chance that you can still recover and you can experience passion if you are with a person who truly loves you and with a person that you love. And they really need to give her that next season.
Yeah, she completely, like everybody who had to go through that, they deserve it if they wanted. But if somebody had, and she did, she wanted romance, she wanted babies, she wanted all that stuff. And if Ramsay actually took that away, that would be horrible. I mean, for one man to have so much power over her.
And I hope that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
And y'all guys, I didn't mean to imply that Dany hadn't been through anything. Yes, she has. Most definitely she has. And in a way, I think they kind of try to show this on purpose, that these two ladies have both gone through a magnificent amount of heartache and still not necessarily, still fighting, And to show a really great parallel of, I mean, I don't know, the different roads one can take, or how it affects one as opposed to the other. Then too, Daenerys did not grow up. She, like I said, she has no gauge for a wonderful, loving family, whereas Sansa does have the advantage of her on that. Sansa can at least think back to a time and a place when she didn't have to worry about being hungry, having a roof over her head, and knew that she was loved and wanted and in her place. Whereas Daenerys has kind of always been an outsider. And that's a very uncomfortable feeling. And we see Jon and Sansa both go through this feeling, but they don't stay there.
Yeah. There's some awesome comments. I don't think I'm gonna read them because I'm gonna blush too. And I should be the last one blushing.
There's so many.
Sorry?
I said they're going faster than normal.
Yeah. It says, Jennifer says, I want Sansa to have a romance and non-traumatic sex experiences. There's a good one here too. Delusional Horse says, all I need is a really hot making out scene, and then Jon bending to give her Lord's kiss.
Yes.
So Sansa deserves all and everything else and more. Like everybody, I guess. It's not just her. She deserves it because she went through a lot. Everybody deserves it. But for Sansa, I mean, this was her wish, and I truly hope that. In the beginning, she said, "Oh, I want it." I seriously don't want the ending to be that she'll never get it and that she'll be fine with it. I don't want her to be fine with it, because I think I somewhere in one of my videos I say, like, nobody should settle for anything that they're able to settle for or live with.
Right.
I don't want her to settle. I so don't want her to settle. That would be sad. That would be sad if she had to if she was broken to the point of realizing that she'll never get what she wants, or that she can never have pleasure from what she always wanted. That would be very sad.
I think the Jon Sansa love scene next season will be the complete opposite of the Jon Denny whatever that was on the boat. I think they really deliberately saved all the romantic tropes for Jon and Sansa next season, so that people will see the immense contrast between these two, and they will notice that Jon and Sansa will get. I would have been completely angry and furious if they had done something like that boat scene with Jon and Sansa. That really would have been so pissed off.
And we know that they can make good scenes here, right? What's her name? Jon and Ygritte. I mean, come on. Yeah. Not the hot springs were hot and they were hot. So it is possible. It's not the people who write the stuff that is making it not
also
be good.
Sorry, guys. Don't mention the chicken sex. I'm sorry, guys.
The what?
Wait, what's the chicken sex?
Oh, Jon, the Jon Denny sex scene. There's a kind of, people call it chicken sex.
Why?
Scene.
Oh,
because they look like a chicken having sex.
I get it.
Oh my god,
it's really true.
Okay, I haven't heard that one, but yeah. So I completely and just imagine right now we're talking about Jon and Sansa, the two people who were quite far away from each other. Can you imagine the shock on people's faces if it actually happened on a show where people see all of a sudden, like they're arguing, or somebody mentioned, I think you, Brita, said it, like they're arguing and then they stare at each other and they just go for a kiss, like this room full of tension, argument, and they basically end up kissing. That would completely, like, I'm hoping for it. But for people who were not even thinking about that, imagine the shock on their faces.
Yes, they need to finally release some of that heavy tension between them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people, I think people were freak out. Yeah.
I think it would be very shocking. All right. I've got another statement I want to get to before we wrap things up, and we've gone over our time, but a Targaryen and a Stark, the Targaryen man and a Stark woman lady started this war. If Jon and Sansa could get together, a Targaryen and a Stark lady could end this, really. And the last book is named A Time for Wolves. What do you guys think about that?
Time for Wolves.
Lyanna kind of jumped things off a while ago.
Meaning Time for Wolves, as in wolves are going to be ruling now?
Well,
I think
it's just finally the Starks are going to have their place in the world back and be settled and happy. Maybe, some semblance of happiness, at least peace.
Yeah, the Starks, because House Stark was basically declared dead last season, and I think it means that the wolves that House Stark will be back, because we know everything started with House Stark, and everything basically started with all the horror and Ned Stark's execution, and then Robb and Catelyn. Everyone thought, oh my god, all the Starks are dying, and now at the end of the story, no, House Stark will come back stronger than ever. And I think that's definitely what A Time for Wolves means. And George R. R. Martin changed the title because it was too spoiler heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then as we know, like for the beginning, the 5 wolves or dire wolves were the ones who survived over the stag. And then we have dragons. We have dragons right now. What if at the end all dragons die somehow, and then the only thing left is basically wolves?
I definitely think that all the dragons will be dead at the end of the story. People are even saying that everything magical will disappear, which would mean that maybe Jon will die as well because he's kind of a magical being now because he was resurrected. But I definitely think that the dragons will be gone by the end of the story.
It would be amazing.
Yeah.
All right, you guys, we have gone for 2.5 hours.
Wow, it flew by for me.
No, let's keep going.
Right.
I know.
Like Game of
People in-
Thrones.
people
We
in
never
the
wanted
chat-
to stop.
There'll be more
Also-
chats. Feuerhexe, tell us a little bit about your video that's soon to come out.
Yeah, I'm doing a video about the so-called political Jon theory, which is about Jon's mission in season 7, and basically it says that his entire mission in his entire story arc in season 7 was about serving the North and doing everything to serve the North, and that's really what everything he's done was all about. And it's basically suggesting that he's playing Daenerys in a way to get her to get her to march north, no matter what it takes. And there are a million clues that support this belief theory.
I agree. And I'm seeing that more and more. So we are going to be doing a stream on that. So we will be back, Jonsa fans. We will, and we will discuss this till it's dry as a bone, or till next season starts, whichever comes first.
Yeah, one thing, it's I don't people kind of see this as a Jonsa related theory, but it really works completely as a completely own theory. You don't have to believe in Jonsa to believe.
No, I agree. I agree
political Jon
100%. But I think you can tie it in.
I think it explains because basically everyone who is not completely shipping Jon and Daenerys noticed how strangely it was written, and people are wondering why it was that way. And this theory basically will deliver a few possible reasons.
I agree. So I don't think that it has to be tied in, but I think you could tie it in to explain some of his actions. Because some people, their problem with the Jonsa theory is, but like, why? But like, why this, why that? And I think that that is what explains it. Because he's doing what he needs to do.
Yeah, I think the Jonsa theory and the political Jon theory are kind of related, but yeah, you don't have to, you can see them separately from each other.
I agree.
Yeah, and so like just to make sure, because I see different comments here too, and at least for me, I have to say that I don't hate everybody, some people there as far as the characters, because everybody has a reason for what they're doing or like why they're crazy. Cersei has her reasons, so I get like why she does things. I don't agree with them standing on the outside, but if I were her, heck, who knows? I'll probably be doing the same stuff. I'm not in her shoes. She's in her shoes. So she does her stuff for her own reasons. Everybody does everybody has their own agenda. So it's obvious that people don't want to automatically try to kill themselves for other people, like so others can win. They want to survive. They want to be, at least if not on top, they want to be alive at the end. So everybody does their thing to survive this whole Game of Thrones or game for survival. Obviously, being on the outside, I'm rooting for those who have, I guess, more sanity in them. If I were to be ruled by them, I want the sane people to survive. But yeah, so there's not like hate, but if I had to pick a side, I would prefer, let's say, Sansa to be the winner with Jon, not Dany. Dany does her things because she's been through a lot, and everybody reacts to trauma differently. She reacts that way, right?
You guys, I'm a Cersei fan. I don't like what she does, but I completely enjoy her character. And I completely understand her in the show when she grabs oh girl's hand and is like, I understand. I really, because she's such a great actress. And in that, she really does mean that she understands. And that's what she's trying to tell her. And I want you to understand too that I cannot let the fact that you poisoned my beloved daughter rest with me.
Yeah.
And so everybody has their reasons, but you have
yeah.
to live with you have to live with what you do. You do.
Exactly.
And in this world as well.
I'm a really big Cersei fan as well. I don't see her as a villain or bad at all. I think she really has her reasons for everything she does. But I have a problem because I can identify with her way better than I can identify with Dany, because I can't identify myself with Dany at all. I mostly identify myself with the Starks. I agree that everyone is doing what they have to do to survive somehow, and nobody is completely pure and innocent. So yeah, it's really, really interesting.
Yes, and that's what makes this book so good.
Yeah, and I see here there are comments, and different comments here about the end game. And Jen, like you were mentioning, we have another set of these coming up with Marie, right? And then so in the future, hopefully we'll have more guests coming on. That would be great. And yeah, so there's a lot to look forward to. Just keep an eye out for any notifications on both.
Everybody hit Game of Theories with Marie's icon and check out her channel. She has a great video on the doom of Westeros. Yes, that's right. You heard me right. Just like in Valyria, she believes there'll be a doom in Westeros. I would like you guys to check that video out if you could, and we're going to break that down and discuss that, just like we did this theory. And we'll be in the future. We'll be doing any more of Feuerhexe's videos as she well, let me say, not videos. We'll be discussing more of her shows.
Exactly.
Because they are really wonderful, and so are Marie's. There's so much talent out here, and everybody. This was a really great chat, you guys, and everybody was so nice and polite. I really enjoyed it. This is the way we like our chat here at the Wolf's Den. Thank you so much.
It's always a pleasure here, Jen. It's really a lot of fun, and I like this type of chat because you always, what you are for here is for everybody to be respectful. We don't have to agree, but we, like you say, we agree to disagree. And this is all theory. We are all given hints and we interpret things differently. So I may have a different opinion than somebody else, but it doesn't mean that they're wrong or I'm right. But
that's right.
These are all our opinions, and we're here to chat like friends.
It different. It doesn't make anybody right or wrong. And you know what? Anything can happen in the Game of Thrones.
True. And exactly. We never know what the ending is going to be. And I also wanted to mention, I don't know if everybody here knows about Jen's book club on Thursdays. If you like the way we kind of roll over here, Jen has a great book club that meets on Thursdays, every Thursday at 8 o'clock. And we discuss books. Right now we're on book 1, and this coming up Thursday we're gonna do Arya 3, if I'm not mistaken. So if you'd like to join us, this is next place to go if you like to see more of this.
Yes, we're going straight through the books, chapter by chapter. This week is Arya 3. We usually have multiple people on the panel, and we give our opinion of any foreshadowing or any interpretation of anything. Everybody gets their say. We don't always agree, but we agree to disagree respectfully.
Exactly. And it's not for people who don't read books. which is also fine if you just want to join us and read the book with us, or if you don't want to read and just hear about it. We do an overview, and then we give, as Jen said, our opinion and our own interpretation. And this is what's fun about it. There's always something that somebody finds that somebody else didn't find. So it's like clues everywhere and our interpretation. So if you are free on Thursdays at around eight not 8 but 8 o'clock Central Time, you're more than welcome to join us, and we do the same thing. We go through comments and everybody is heard.
That's right. And if you leave a comment on any video, one of us will get back with you. It may take a little bit longer than you think, but that's because we're all working, and some of us have children, but we're all working and we're all doing real world things. Like Friday afternoon, I spent all morning long at the Social Security office getting a new Social Security card. And yes, Mr. Wiki and Rudy were agreeing with you in the background, Marie. But everybody, yes. And just thank everybody so much. And you can find me here at Lady Wolverton's Den. I'm on Twitter, Jennifer Wolverton 1976, Facebook, Jennifer Wolverton. I accept anybody who, I recognize their name or in Game of Thrones or whatever. I do. And Feuerhexe, why don't you tell everybody where you can be found? And then LMR, you take us out.
Yeah, Feuerhexe, really, really a difficult name, I know. You can find me on my channel, of course, on YouTube, and you can find me on Twitter as Fienchen82, which is basically FIENCHEN82. And yeah, I hope to see you guys there, and thank you very, very much for this fantastic. Thank you very much.
And let me just say this too, you guys. Feuerhexe is a big deal. She's a big deal on YouTube. She's got 25,000 views on this video. I'm a very small YouTuber. And I want to just tell y'all, there could not be a more gracious lady to participate not only in getting the word out about this chat, but just to roll with every technical difficulty we've had, and just really a nice person, So you guys, please check her channel out. Thank you so much. LMR?
And this is LMR. You can find me on 2 of my channels. I have a writing channel on which I do my writing journey. It's called Living My Rhapsody. And then I have a reviews channel, Living Reviews, where I just do reviews of random stuff. I don't post there lately because I'm continuing writing right now, so the posts are not as often. And of course, I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And again, Jen, so thank you so much for having me. And Feuerhexe, thank you for your wonderful video. And everybody, if you are liking what you're hearing, if you like this panel and just our discussion type, please look out for any notifications from Jen's channel. We'll be doing more of these, and we would love to have you in our chats, because we're trying. And as Jen said, we do read everything here. We answer to all the comments, and we would like for everybody to be a part of this, because this is how we can talk forever and we can do that, but we would love to hear your opinions too, because everybody's opinion matters. Again, thank you, Jen.
You're welcome. And amen to that. That's right. Everybody's opinion matters. And with that, I'm going to tell everybody to have a great rest of the evening and be safe. And thank you so much for spending some of your time with us. I know time is one of the most precious things in this world. Thank you so much. Everybody have a great rest of the day or night.